Hello and welcome to the State of Modern Philippines or the Stump. I'm your host, Mark. January is ending and we've already completed the weekly modern tournaments. So here we are with the return of the highly requested modern meta. First, let me tell you the tournaments we covered. The first one is at Regran held last January 13. We had 53 players and had 6 rounds of elimination in the quarterfinals. Then the top 4 players have decided to split the prizes. A week after was the pre-release of Ravnica Legion, so there were no modern tournaments. Then we hit the weekend for January 26 and 27 where we have 3 tournaments. I was supposed to cover the tournament at Radioactive last January 26, but unfortunately only 10 people showed up. I skipped it because the data there is too small to be included in this report. I aim to have a minimum of 16 players to be included in the data, but I got a feedback to cover it and just don't include the data. I thought about it and decided to do it next time. Thanks Uncle Paying for the feedback. Lastly, we still have KCI during the first tournament, but with bannings taking effect on January 25th, it's no longer in the meta on the second one, which is the one held last January 27 at Regran with 44 players. There were also a simultaneous modern tournament at Kick Engines, but I don't know if it pushed through. Tried to reach out to them yesterday so I can include the data here if it meets the 16 players minimum, but I received no reply. So that was 44 players in another 6 round of elimination plus the quarterfinals. Same result where the top 4 split the prizes. Before we dive into the meta share, I just want to let you know that the data here is exclusive here in the Philippines, and I've ranked the tier decks based on the number of pilots or the most popular deck. You might see some decks in the bottom tier, but it doesn't mean you can hang with the top decks. With that out of the way, let's dive into the meta share and let's begin with the tier 1 decks. Grabbing the top spot is Good Old Burn. This deck has always been in the meta even with my previous reports. Burn gaining new toys from the recent sets like Risk Factor and now Security Critics, plus additional damages from fetches in Modern made a total sense to use the deck, which propelled it into the number 1 spot with an 11.83% share. On to the second spot, we have a tie. First, we have the infamous Game 1 deck of old, which is Affinity with a 9.8% share. Now with a new version with hardened scales, colorless Mage Faithfuls can alter their deck types. I wonder if they'd also consider playing True Affinity with Frogmite, Mirror Enforcer, Carapace Forger, or the like. The second deck on the second spot is UW Control with the same 9.68% share. When UW Control was given Jace the Mind Sculptor, it looks promising. Now with Teferi here of Dominaria in Opt, the deck is a serious contender. Not to mention it can deal with Burn with the newly tournament Lethal Absorb. We head on to the last deck for the tier 1 decks, and it's the new kid on the block, which is It Phoenix with a 7.53 share. The deck is fast and a lot of cantrips. You have a free Phoenix that is ready to attack. There's also the pseudo board wipe if needed via Thing in the Eyes, and the unfair Crackling Phoenix growing even with the exiled instants and sorcery spells. Now that KCI has been banned, I expect this deck to be represented more. The pieces are quite cheap compared to other tier decks. Moving on to the tier 2 decks. Leading the pack was a previously considered Fringe deck, but it's Fringe no more, which is Storm with 6.45% meta share, and a lot of Magic players sharpened their mathematical skills using the deck. With the ability to combo off on turn 4 and sometimes turn 3, you better pack something in your sideboard against this deck. It's very clear that the deck is now more consistent, with gifts ungiven being used. Then we have good old Tron at 5.38% meta share. For the last sets, a lot of hate cards were printed against it. Heck, even BG, Jund, and Abzan get to have Assassin's Trophy to have a shot at Tron. But the deck shows resiliency as it still continues to make the top 8 performances. The meta was so focused on dealing with KCI, and this was an opportunity for Tron players to play the deck as the dark horse of every tournament. No new toys, just assemble your Tron lands and dominate. Another tier 2 deck that had the same meta share with Tron is BG Rock. With Jund and Abzan being less popular, it's time for the third cousin to police the tournament. Packed with steady discard and 1-for-1 removals, BG Rock, or simply the Rock deck, can be a decent deck to bring in a tournament. Of course, last but not the least, we move on to the tier 3 decks. We have a 3-way tie with 4.3 meta share and another police deck, which is Jund. It was decent enough to be in tier 3. I guess it's like its cousins. It's a safe deck to bring in a tournament and you have a chance to crack that top 8. The second deck is a previous modern dark horse, which is Dredge. I always follow a rule when playing a tournament. Never forget Graveyard Gate. This fast and unfair deck is still popular. With free and recurring creatures and free spell in the form of the new toy, Creeping Chill, the deck can easily overwhelm an opponent. This deck will be competing with the new Graveyard deck, which is it Phoenix? And all I can say is, come February, don't forget your Graveyard Gates. The last one for the three-way tie is the last cousin of mid-range decks, which is Abzan. It clearly offers a better sideboard option with white. Unlike the common traits of its cousins, it's a decent deck to bring to a tournament. Moving on to the next deck, we have the stable Titan Shift at 3.23% meta share. With a simple strategy to ramp into lands and play Primeval Titan plus Escape Shift, this deck is still a fine choice. With its track record of numerous top 8 appearances in the last quarter or so, it is just in the background waiting for another spotlight. And the last deck that makes up majority of the metagame and sharing a 3.23% with Titan Shift is a previous tier 1 deck called Infect. The previous tier 1 deck made its silent return last quarter. The meta was meant to be fast, and this deck is one of the fastest decks. With protection from spot removal, this is a good choice for experienced players. The only thing to be mindful of are mass removals, which you would expect due to the popularity of UW control. Now, let's look into the top 8 count of the couple of tournaments I covered. Before you choose your deck and copy those top 8 decks, I will show you the top 8 conversion rate on the next page. Okay, so these are your top 8 decks for the last 2 tournaments. We have EZ Phoenix with 2 entries, Burn with 2, Dredge with 2, then Druid Evolution, League Mizzet, Glorious Vengeance, Tron, UW Control, Affinity, Axis, BG Rock, Spirits, and Storm have an appearance. Okay, so again, before you choose your deck and copy those deck lists in the top 8, let me show you their top 8 conversion rate. This shows how the pilot's top 8 conversion rate fared to the tournament that it is in. As you can see on the next slide, here we go. Burn, UW Control, Affinity, and Storm have poor top 8 conversion. Out of those four, three are in Tier 1 camp. They are well represented, but it's not a guarantee that if you bring a popular deck that you'd be in the top 8. The hate goes with it as well. For the entries with 100% top 8 conversion rate, they only played in one tournament. They were the lone representatives of their deck. I believe all decks except Spirits have a surprise factor that the field was not ready for. Great strategy if you're an expert of the deck, and I should say. But I'd recommend Dredge and Taxes since they were both both in the tournaments, and they have a 50% top 8 conversion rate. Okay, so you can consider these two as your go-to decks come February. So that's it for this month. I hope you find the data useful and use it as a guide to your next event. If you find it helpful, please subscribe to the channel and help us grow so we can deliver more content like this. We can continue delivering the modern coverages as well as this meta share. And thank you, and I'll see you next month.